Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us on our weekly political program live on Lagos Television. I am Ajibola Ojeshola. Today on the program, we'll be looking at our journey so far as a country. At 65, some would say it's been a combination of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But then, when you look at it generally, have we performed woefully so far as a nation? And where we are lagging behind, what are those amendments that we need to make as a country? Joining us this afternoon to look at these and more national issues is Honorable Kalajaye Adeboye-Paul, PhD, representing the people of Jiromi Felodu Federal Constituency in the Green Chamber of the National Assembly. Before you meet my guest this afternoon, we'll quickly take a short break to bring you the summary of political news in the country. Stay with us. You're still watching the Pendulum live on Lagos Television. Again, we are looking at Nigeria at 65. Of course, we all remember that Nigeria celebrated our 65th independence on 1st of October 2025. And we are still in the mood for the celebration of our 65 years of nationhood. Again, my guest this afternoon is Honorable Kalajaye Adeboye-Paul, PhD, representing the people of Jiromi Felodu Federal Constituency in the Green Chamber of the National Assembly. Good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
So for you, how would you classify our journey as a country at 65? For some, like I said in my intro, it's a combination of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Was it all bad?
It can't be all bad. It can't be all bad. We must have had some kind of history that portends some kind of potentialities that has to do with some kind of sufficiency or some kind of availability or some kind of, call it enjoyment or whatever, maybe in the early days of our independence. But then, those were the days when, children or people who go to school are encouraged to go to school. There were periods when we were just coming out of our masters, our colonial masters. And so we needed a lot of manpower rejuvenation. We needed to have the kind of manpower that can take over our national economy. So school children were encouraged to go to schools. They were given food, they were given all kind of incentives. I remember when I went to the teachers' college, apart from having been fed with free food, we had an allowance we called the level 8, which was 8,000 naira monthly, apart from being fed. And of course, those were periods when the nation was looking for teachers, people to train, people in the art of teaching. So if you opt for teacher education, you were encouraged. And then so much of such encouragement were in place. And so much of things when independence, we will have to, go and do march past, when you have to carry the flag of Nigeria. And people, there were melodious period of joyfulness, so people refer to those days as good old days. Fine. As good as they were, the good old days started being truncated by the development that came after independence. In 1966, we had a military coup. That was a diversion. Of course, some sentiments started building in. The Izegu coup was start to be the Igbo coup. The Northerners didn't take lightly to the loss of most Northerners. You understand what I'm saying? That was when Taiwo was killed in Kwara. You understand what I'm saying? So they saw it as an Igbo coup, rather than see it as a coup that came. You understand what I'm saying? So fine, that left. We came back only to enter into the civil war. The Igbos wanted to go, led by late Odumegwu Ojukwu, who felt that, look, there is injustice in the country. He was referring to the Aburi Conference. While he interpreted the Aburi Conference differently, other people interpreted the Aburi Conference in other ways. What he interpreted the Aburi Conference to mean that was the Aburi Conference that was consummated to resolve the issues. He interpreted the Aburi Conference to mean that status quo should remain. And the status quo, by his own interpretation, is that no, we should go back. But then some people interpreted status quo to mean that no, it's the other way around. So there was that confusion. The civil war went on for quite some time until when it was ended. When it was ended, there were agreement that there should be reconstruction of the destroyed part of the Igbo land. How much was that done? Reconciliation was supposed to be ongoing. How much of those reconciliations were done genuinely? So some people will be aggrieved. You understand what I'm saying? So the path for unity was already being dismembered by the circumstance of our history. Of course, we've had, so many of these challenges. And so that people refer to those good. But then don't forget also that those good old days were days when the population was very small.
Compared to what we have now?
Compared to what we have now. So demand for resources were not as much as this. We're an agrarian economy. We thrive on agriculture. The days of granite pyramids were there. The days of cocoa, the cocoa board were there. The days of rubber plantation has epitomized in what we have in Ogun State, in Ekene, and all of those ones. The oil was there. The palm oil was there. Remember that the Malaysian economy that was built on oil, on palm oil, they came to Nigeria to take the tree, the seed that they used in Malaysia. I have visited Malaysia, and I was in the Malaysia Museum. I saw, they still kept a replica of what we had then, where they took from Nigeria. I saw it. And then today they are doing well in terms of palm oil production. How well have we been doing? So later on, oil came. When oil came, we abandoned agriculture. We have never remained focused as a country. Rather than take oil as an additional resources and continue in developing our agriculture, we abandoned agriculture. We were chasing after oil. And we chased after oil days when people were doing paper oil. People just buy one paper from the other one. They were making money. So we threw the country. And the thing came as it never were before. At a point, one of our leaders was quoted as saying that money is not our problem, it's how to spend it. You understand? Rather than use the advent of oil as a means to propel our development speedily and move ahead to complete our infrastructural network, to look at some other areas to develop. No, we didn't do that. I'm not saying that they mismanaged, but then it wasn't properly utilized in terms of what we needed to do with a boom that came at that time. So those were challenges.
Okay, so there's no way we are going to talk about the journey of Nigeria without making reference to the quality of leaders that we have had in 65 years. How would you describe the quality of our leaders, their competence and their contributions to where we are today?
Okay, let's look at our past leaders. The days of Zik of this world. The days of Tafawa Balewa. The days of Awolowo. How have they done? Assess them. We started with regionalism. And regions were doing well. It was a competition among regions. The West was taking the lead under Awolowo. We have the estates. The East followed. The North were supposed to follow. But then we abandoned regionalism because of the military interregnum. We were back and said, okay, we should have a unitary government. The military came up with a unitary government and then abandoned regionalism. The abandonment of regionalism is a setback for us as a country. And that's why some people are still clamoring that can't we go back to regionalism? Where every region can develop on its own potential. At the stage, we are calling for confederacy. That we have a confederacy rather than what we have today. A confederacy will mean that you generate your resources, you spend it, you contribute to the national purse. Have we forgotten how United States of America came up? They were independent states. And then they decided to come together. And today, 2 states in America is almost as bigger than Nigeria. And they're still running till today. Their unity in their diversity has propelled them to move further. There are competitions among the states. The law that exists in some states does not exist in other states. So whereas they still had a government that is well, positioned to govern the entire world. So we abandoned regionalism, we went to statism, we now started creating states, we had 12 states, we had 16, we have all manner of
States.
So what do you have to say about that? We're not focused. That's the language. Rather than get focused on a particular thing and do what is right, then when the slaves were no longer needed, when the abolition of slaves came, they pursued industrialization because industrialization replaced the use of humans as labor. And then so they pursued this industrialization. So when we also look at it, the world is going industrialized, we started chasing industrialization. At times we're chasing industrialization before we perfect industrialization, they have dropped us behind. They are facing the world of technology. They are moved away from technology, they are moving into IT, they move away from IT, they are now doing AI. So we keep on, rather than be focused and pursue our own agenda, we're chasing the developed world, pursuing their own agenda. And then they drop us behind, and then we get confused. Today, we have not developed our industries to the fullest. Industries are collapsing, they are fading away. People are moving away from their industry from Nigeria. We could not generate enough power. Power is basic to the development of any nation. It's called power. Because as a person, if you don't have power, you cannot, it's called energy. So a nation that cannot have energy, power, cannot develop. Both of you talk industrial revolution, talk of technological-driven economy, you talk of IT-driven economy, they're all dependent on power. So how well have we done in terms of power generation? But it's not stories of woes and woes and woes and woes all along. We've not done badly. Let's look at what has kept us together. One, we've been able to keep together a country that is indivisible, we survive our challenges. Two, we have also been able to move away. We were living in fool's paradise, spending the money that we'd never had. And then a government now came under the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of this country, to say, look, enough of this fuel subsidy. We are living in food. Let's face it, let's remove it. And he removed the fuel subsidy. He came with all kind of pains, sufferings, and whatever, because price of goods escalated and all of those ones. Even power, we are hungry, they cry. But it subsided. It's begun to subside. The story of Ibn Power is becoming less noisy now because we have come to realize that it's either we pay the price today or we don't pay the price forever. And if we don't pay the price, we can go into a precipice as a country because we are spending the money that we never earned. Today, the challenges of removal of petrol is still there, but it's getting off a little bit.
Okay.
What we now need to do is to make judicial use of what we have saved from the fuel subsidy. And that's why we appeal to all tiers of government, whether it be federal, the state
or local
and the
government.
local government, to make judicial use of what we've been able to save from the removal of fuel subsidy.
All right. As a country in 65 years, something played out during the last general elections. We had so much of sentiments towards religion, tribe, and all sort of things, and that played out clearly during the last general elections. In terms of our unity as a country in 65 years, would you say that we are together? With all sincerity?
We are together, we're not together. We are together because we don't have a choice than to be together. Because our being together gives us more advantages than being dismembered. See, whether you like it or not, do you say the Hausas are not productive? They are a vital sector of our economy. It's the food basket of the country. You understand what I'm saying? Will you say the Igbos are not important? They're like our technological-driven hub of Nigeria. Are you following what I'm saying? Will you say the Yorubas are not contributing enough to the economy? The Yorubas are the intellectual hub of this country. And all of these combinations come together to make Nigeria great and greater. So we need each other. So whatever is dividing us that is not making us to be together, we should forget it, we should jettison it. We should be focused. For instance, I agree with you. The last election, a lot of tribal sentiments played out. But I can assure you that it's not likely to play out in the forthcoming election. Because people are beginning to realize every of the presidential candidates in their campaign said they were going to remove fuel subsidy. No presidential candidate, foremost president that did not say he will remove fuel subsidy. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has removed the fuel subsidy. They have started criticizing. So how would they have done it? If they remove fuel subsidy, would there not be pains? And then the pains have to come. It's after the pains that comes relief. So for me today, credit to the president of this country, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. There must also be plans that are methodical to take away from the woods. If there are no plans, what the president is doing and the entire leadership of this country is doing now is to lay out a plan. And because of the plan, they are looking at so many issues. They came up with tax reforms, that we have to reform our tax. Look, only a few people are paying taxes. And no nation developed without its tax system. So if we have to depend on oil is not doing well. So if oil goes bad today and worse than what it is today, how are we going to survive? So everybody must contribute to the national economy. So everybody must also put in. People are not putting in, but they're asking for much. What have you put in the national economy? They say the economy is not surviving. So put in your own little. Let me put in my own little. And of course, I have described the tax reform as a redistribution of wealth. I see it as a redistribution of national economy, national wealth.
More on the side of the poor.
More on the side of the poor, less on the side of the rich. Let the rich be taxed more. You understand what I'm saying? In developed country, you tax the rich more. The poor survive on the taxes of the rich. But how many rich men in Nigeria are paying the commensurate taxes? And then while the rich are paying, all of us as people must also contribute. They introduce the value-added tax. How many of us are paying the value-added? How many people are remitting actually what they are generating from the value-added tax? So I'm sure by January, when the tax reform fully takes effect, I'm a member of the finance committee, and I participated in the reforms of the taxation. And I saw and I knew that the January takeoff of the reform will also assist us in building more resources for our economy. So when you build resources in terms of taxation, you get from oil. We're also doing backward integration in terms of agriculture. Government is spending so much money on agric. And I told the Minister of Agric when he came, we summoned him to the House of Representatives. And I told him that your PR people are not doing enough. That was then. That you are doing so much. When he explained the more that is being done, the plans that are ahead of us, I said, you are doing so much, but not much is known in the public domain. That your information technology, machinery must be re-engineered. And of course, I think they are doing well now. So also, they have re-engineered. People are getting to know what we're doing in agriculture. We must mechanize agriculture. We cannot continue in the crude way by which we do agricultural practice until we get out. So we need to marry all this. And so I've told you, for a nation to move forward, the resources must be there. The resources in terms of finances, the human capability. We are developing our human resources. And I was impressed when the Minister of Education said, look, in the next 7 years, there shouldn't be creation of more universities. And I sent him a note. I sent him a message. I congratulated him. I had a bill in the House on creation of one university. I had to stop the bill because I have come to realize that it's a fact. We have produced so many. And then some of our universities no longer have even admission. They don't have enough people to admit again. And then we now jump into more of private universities. People are now making stupendous money through private institutions. And then, but the government institutions are also waking up. They are not doing badly. We've had them as competing with even the private institutions. So, and I tell anybody who cares to know, I went to public school, my children attending public school, I don't send them to private universities.
Okay, so so far, according to Mr. President, of course, he did address Nigerians on that day, 1st of October 2025. And he said that the worst is over. So what are the indices that must have made Mr. President to actually made that kind of speech to reassure Nigerians that the worst period is over?
Yeah, when he said the worst period is over, I'm not in his mind. But I think, paradoxically, what he was telling us is that, look, the plans are laid out. If you can follow the plans, the worst is over. What are those plans? I've itemized some of those plans. Return back to an agrarian economy is a plan to making our wars to be over. Do reform tax system, generate more taxes. Are you following what I'm saying? 3, make the local governments and the state more accountable. And that was why the issue of, look, let money go to the local government account directly. So when he looked at some of the things that, and the aspect of technology is also not doing badly. We're also propelling in terms of technology. Look at what happened just a few days ago when, Governor Sanwo-Olu used our waterways as it's never been used before. We're also driving in investors. The president has gone ahead going all over the world soliciting investments. You must also bring in investors to come and invest. And in doing investment, you must also improve on security, which of course is part of the things that say the worst is over. The insecurity situation is not getting worse, it's getting better. So those are indices of things to show that the worst is over. And when he said the worst is over, he must also be thinking in his mind that the adaptability of Nigerians to the reality of our time is becoming very, 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 very visible. People no longer have to carry their car. They don't have to carry for instance, in Lagos, the rail system is fully on course.
There are options.
There are options. People now prefer to leave their cars and join the train. So
the waterways.
The waterways are also there. So when people start looking at, rather than all of us, and now if you have to drive your car, you must have 2-3 people using it. Rather than you alone sitting in the car, in the comfort of your car, people are walking there. So those are some of the indices that will show that, yes, and then the prices of goods are falling. Take it or leave it. The problem we have about price of, for instance, rice, which used to be one of the essential commodities, it's gone up to 110,000, 90,000. Today, it's falling as low as 60-something thousand. So why would you not say prices are falling? But the problem we have is this: when prices are falling,
the market men and women,
what will happen to the market men?
They're not ready to drop the prices.
Are they ready to drop the prices? So we need to get reorientated as a people. There must be reorientation. There must be revolution of the mind. Our minds must be revolutionized to be able to know that we need to all be a contributor to the survival of this country.
Okay, but then, in your assessment, would you say that we are truly living the dreams of our founding fathers of those years? Are we truly living that dream of Nigeria, the giant of Africa, at 65?
That's what the president said. And I'm sure that when he said that, is to say that, well, what was the dream of our founding father? We must x-ray the dreams. 1, to have an indivisible country.
1.
Part of the dreams. To have a livable economy, which of course we're on the journey. To have a country where peace and justice reign. That is on course.
Not fully?
Not fully, but it's on course. Today, you cannot say that what used to happen 10 years ago, 15 years ago is what is happening today. The injustices are getting over. People are getting justice. We have justice reforms. You understand what I'm saying? We have justice reforms. The current Minister of Justice is doing a lot too in terms of reforms. Have attended conferences where reforms have been discussed. So these are issues. Our planning system must be adequate. We must plan very well, because you who fails to plan plans to fail. You who plans to, plans fail, plans not to fail. So that's the way it is. So for me, he is not out of point to say that we're living the dreams of our forefathers and our woes are over. But of course, let me also tell you, as a president, he must encourage us.
Sure.
He must encourage us to say our woes are over. That itself is a thirst-quenching syndrome. Look, my daughter, my son, look, food is coming. When you go to Ibadan, you want to buy amala. You first of all bring you water. The amala may not come until the next 1 hour.
Just whet your appetite.
So, I think the president has whet our appetite, telling us that we should cry less.
All right.
Support is on the way.
We'll still come back to the October 1st presidential broadcast of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Nigerians, to give them the reassurance, rather, that Nigeria is indeed on track. At this moment on the program, we'll be taking a very short break to bring you the soundbite, and of course, the soundbite of the week is the presidential broadcast of that day as well. We just pick some paragraph of that broadcast and, of course, relate it together with my guest right here in the studio after this break.
For decades, the promise of our independence has been tested by profound social, economic, and political challenges, and we have survived. While we may not have achieved all the lofty dreams of our forebearers, we have not strayed too far from them. In 65 years since our independence, we have made tremendous progress in economic growth, social cohesion, and physical development. Our country has experienced both the good and the bad times in its 65 years of nationhood. Under our Renew Hope agenda, we promise to build a Nigeria where every young person, regardless of background, has an equitable opportunity to access a better future. Fellow Nigerians, I've always candidly acknowledged that this reform have come with some temporary pains. The biting effects of inflation and the rising cost of living remains a significant concern to our government. However, the alternative of allowing our country to descend into economic chaos or bankruptcy was not an option. The accurate measure of our success will not be limited to economic statistics alone, but rather in the food on our family tables, the quality of education our children receive, the electricity in our homes, and the security in our communities. Let me assure you of administration's determination to ensure that the resources we have saved and the stability we have built are channeled into these critical areas. My message is hope and a call to action. Let all hands be on deck. Let us believe once more in the boundless potential of our great nation.
It's still the Pendulum, our weekly political program on Lagos television. I still have with me in the studio Honorable Kalejaye Adeboye Paul, PhD. Together we've been looking at the journey of Nigeria at 65, our challenges, our strengths, and how indeed we can put the country back on the right track. That was Mr. President speaking to Nigerians there. But then, in reshaping our future to make us a better country, to make us a better society, to make us live fully the dreams of our founding fathers, what are the things that we need to do to reshape the country and put it on the right path?
Our democracy must work. Our votes must count. The only thing, the best thing that is embedded in democracy is that you have the ability to change bad leadership.
Through your votes.
Through your votes. And except we make the votes to count, then you can't change a bad government. So for me, those things are important, and democracy, making a vote count, is first and foremost in my mind as one of the things we must do. So that if this government is not good, then change it, bring another government, and let's see how it goes. But then, let's see how much we can continue to experiment. Because a country that thrives on experimentation may not even survive. You must also give your leadership some time. You must give this current leadership the time to optimize some of his gains, to optimize some of his plans. And so if anybody is thinking about, okay, you are fighting Bola Ahmed Tinubu by saying he shouldn't come back the second time, you are not fighting Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You are fighting us as a nation. Because except we are focused, like I've said from the beginning, we may not get there. You cannot continue to change and experiment leadership as if you are buying popov or you are buying akara. It's not going to be so. That's one thing that we need to do. The second thing we need to do is to also be able to be more productive. When I say be more productive, you see how people today who says they are jobless. When I used to read in the Bible, they say, there's plenty of work. There are no workers.
Laborers.
The laborers are few. Then I was thinking, how can they say there's so much unemployment? But as an employer of labor, I've come to know the fact of what the Bible was saying. When you talk of the laborers are few, we're talking of laborers who are ready to work. Because many people claim to be jobless because they want to be jobless. Chinua Achebe, in one of his books, said we are coming to Lagos because we want to do for work. He said, no, if it's work you are looking for in his book, he said, there is no forest between Umahia and Lagos. Take your cutlass and start cutting, and farm, or start cutting the grasses. So there are people, we must be more productive. That's, of course, the second thing I think we should also embrace. Thirdly, we must also reorientate our minds, revolution of the mind, to be more patriotic. The public infrastructure must be well protected. Whatever is provided by government must be put to the optimal use. Then if you see something, say something. We must also be perturbed about what goes on with it around us. Since what touches us must be debated by us, we must also partake in public debate, public discussions. Then our education must be driven towards new dimensions. We can't continue to go back in the days of regurgitation. When you regurgitate, you sing, those things as if you just put them in the brain and continue to pour it out. No, there must be applied education. Our education must be applicable to national development, to societal need. If society is not good for you, can't you be good for yourself? Don't you understand that those who make money in this country are those who tap into the failure of government? If the taps were running, would there be bottled water or pure water selling? It can't, because we can all do from the public tap. So, for the wise, you tap into the failure of government and then plug into it and create an economy out of it. So those are some of the things we can be doing.
Okay, there's no way we're going to talk about the next phase of our journey as a country without making reference to the need for us to have a constitution that will guide us in governance and the way and manners we conduct ourselves. So the ongoing constitutional review, I'm aware that the panel or the committee of the House of Reps will be meeting with various political parties. For you, in tweaking this 1999 Constitution as amended, what are those vital things that you feel should be embedded in the amendment of this Constitution?
For me, we can continue to amend the Constitution up to times. Do we have a bad Constitution? We should ask ourselves, is our Constitution that seriously bad? The answer is yes or no. For me, it's not about the Constitution, it's about the people, the operators of the Constitution. So, while I do not oppose constitutional amendments to cater for some very germane loopholes that we need to amend, but then the amendment must be focused in areas of critical needs.
Like what?
Like, for instance, making our democracy count, making our vote count. I'm a member of the Electoral Committee of the House. We're doing a lot in terms of electoral reforms. But let me also bubble your bust, or bust your bubble. Professor Ayo said, he said, the way we're doing our reforms, we reform the electoral law to an extent that funding will become critical and challenging. And that the funding, the funds to fund the reforms, the national economy, the national budget will not be able to carry it. The more you reform, the more money you need to spend for elections. And the more money you spend on the elections, the more it dips into the national resources. So yes, electoral reforms are necessary, which I agree, but then we must reform sensibly too. So that, of course, is good. Constitutional amendment is good. All of them are good, but then we must not think that we are that bad
As a country.
in terms of constitution.
Well, what's your position on the creation of state police?
I support, and I will tell you why I support creation of state police. Those who are proponents, yes, I'm part of the proponents of state police. And why do I support state police? I support state police because, one, it will localize security. We have to localize security. And what do I mean by localization of security? We must be able to secure ourselves. We know ourselves. So nobody can come. For instance, as a Yoruba man, there are certain things you do as a Yoruba man will blacklist you forever. They will blacklist you forever. You can't think that as a Yoruba man, there are certain things you do that are more Yoruba ni wo. And the same thing applies in other
Parts of the country.
There are certain things that are not tolerated within those sectors too. So if we have a localized police, our eyes will see everybody. And then the localized police we are talking about, it does not abolish the central police. Even the developed world that have localized police, they have not abandoned their central security. Their central security talks of national security. But in terms of policing the various wards, the various communities and all that, why not the local police? And then if you have a local police, funding of police will also be decentralized. The local government can fund
The local police.
the local police. The state will also join. Then the national can fund the national police, which has to do with
And
that.
some states they are funding police already.
Yes, unofficially. Unofficially. I know the Lagos State government is doing a lot in terms of funding police. I know some other states are doing a lot, but that is unofficial. I know some local governments who are trying. They buy security vehicles for police and all. They are just a matter of decisions. They are optional decisions. A governor may decide to do, he may decide not to do. A local government chairman may decide to do, he may decide not to do. It's not compelling, it's not binding. But then when it's constitutionally binding, it becomes part of the budget, voting. Budgets are voted, and then budgets are implemented to support. So local police are in support. But those who are against local police, they are saying that
The politicians might abuse power.
that they might use it against their enemies, their opponents. But the question is, we have grown so widely. Who can oppress anybody again in this country? the social media has gone so haywire. You can't do
You can
anything.
never tell who's watching.
You can't tell who's watching. So who's going to oppress you?
So you are for state police.
I'm for state police.
All right, we must thank you very much, Honorable Kalejaye Adeboye Paul, PhD, representing the people of Ajeromi Feludu Federal Constituency in the Green Chamber of the National Assembly, for finding time to be on the Pendulum this week.
It's my pleasure.
All right, that's the show this week. Our interesting perspective on Nigeria at 65, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and our journey so far as a country. Ahead of us is a prosperous future if indeed all of us can come together as brothers and sisters and, of course, continue to push as Nigerians. That's the show today. We thank you for watching. Remember to join us at 3 p.m. next Wednesday on The Pendulum. I am Ajibola Ojoshola. I'll see you then.